Hello and welcome everybody to today's edition of Mexico News Network's Breaking News Business. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. Remember to follow us on all our social networks and to catch us every day by logging onto our website, mexiconewsnetwork.com, for relevant stories and news. Let's start with today's show. US, Mexican and Canadian officials have agreed to an aggressive timetable to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, sources said, aiming to conclude early next year to avoid Mexico's 2018 presidential elections. The plan is to hold 7 rounds of talks at 3-week intervals. Described by one Mexican official as a very aggressive calendar, the sources said the goal was to conclude the talks before the electoral campaign gets into full swing. The first round of talks to upgrade the accord underpinning over $1 trillion of trilateral trade between the United States, Mexico and Canada is due to take place in Washington from August the 16th through to the 20th. US administration officials said Mexico had asked for the negotiations to be completed by the end of the year, before the Mexican presidential election heats up. Robert Lighthizer has said he hopes the negotiations could be wrapped up by the end of the year, while noting that he was not prepared to set a deadline for the talks. Lighthizer, who by US rules is the chief NAFTA negotiator, said in June that completing negotiations by the year end was a very quick time frame, and we're not going to have a bad agreement just to save time. US officials cautioned that if things go badly on the trade front, Mexico would gain leverage on immigration. It's been praised by US officials for curbing the flow of Central American immigrants through Mexico, but it could decide to reduce its border enforcement. In other headlines, Mexico has launched a pioneering scheme to insure a coral reef off the coast of Cancun. The Cancun scheme, which is to be run by Swiss Re and the Nature Conservancy, is thought to be one of the first in the world to tie environmental benefits and the ecosystem services provided by natural environmental features to firm monetary costs and rewards. Under the Cancun insurance policy, local organizations dependent on tourism will pay into a collective pot likely to amount to between $1 million and $7.5 million for the insurance premiums on the policy, and a 40-mile stretch of reef and connected beach will be monitored. If any destructive storms damage the reef system, the insurer will pay out sums likely to be $25 million to $70 million in any given year. Hotels and private companies are signing up to the scheme at present, and the plan is for a fund backed by the government that will cover the premiums. This is scheduled to be activated in September, with further contracts to be signed in November and December, and full coverage will then begin from next January. Moving on. Remittances sent by Mexicans to their families, mainly from the United States, have become the primary source of foreign exchange for Mexico. In the country, almost 2 million households depend on these resources as one of their primary sources of income. Much of the remittances received by Mexican households are used to pay for basic services such as rent, food, services such as water and electricity, according to the Migration and Remittances Yearbook 2017, released by BBVA Research. The proportion for durable goods is less and less relevant. Of the 12 million Mexican immigrants living in the United States, about 8 million belonged to the economically active population. In 2016, Mexico received $27 billion for remittances, similar to the amount of foreign exchange earned by foreign direct investment and higher than the country's oil exports and tourism. The Mexican peso decreased 0.0342 or 0.19% to 17.6938 on Tuesday, July the 25th, from 17.7280 in the previous trading session. IPC Mexico traded at 51,661 on Monday, July the 24th. Historically, this is the all-time high figure reached by the Mexico stock market IPC index. This was all for today. Thank you for staying with us. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and log on to mexiconewsnetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.